Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. John Riggio joining us today, our architect, our professional tennis player, author, and so much more. Joining us live today, we're going to go back down memory lane. I want to hear some more of his tennis stories because he always has something new, enlightening, and really jaw-dropping to share. So, John, hello. How are you?
Hi, Jill. How's everything there?
Everything's great, sweetheart, right? I don't know. I feel like the fall's upon us. You're in Jersey. I'm in Long Island, New York. So it's like summer's coming to an end. But I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Yes, the weather is staying warm. That's pretty good. And so today, just to continue on some more stories about tennis. When I was younger, I was remembering more and more things just to put together interesting pieces of the story. And I think everyone would like to hear about it. I think usually I talk about my architect profession, but I also like to talk about stories from years ago as a pro tennis player. And there was a number of stories. Today, there's a number of names of players. And one interesting story from years ago that I was talking about a number of times was when I was a junior pro player. I was number one, listed down as number one pro player. And I think one interesting thing about some things about like getting your name out and publicity and all kinds of things like that was there was another pro player that was an excellent player. He was from California. And his last name, I just remembered, his name was Muller. Now, there was a story in one of the junior years when I was playing. I was told to sit aside for this tournament. And I was sort of told that they sort of was hoping that I couldn't play. I think it was because of my sponsors or something like that. And I think from that, I could sort of get the idea maybe they wanted someone else to win. Someone somewhere was doing this. I wasn't able to play. And it was the US Open in the junior classification. So what happened is, if they don't want me to play a tournament, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. It went through my coach. I don't have any say in it anyway. There's no way for me to just go there and sign up and play the tournament. So if there's no big deal, that doesn't bother me, I'll just play some other tournaments. But this other player, Mother, was a good kid. He informed me that also my name was listed as number one all the way in California too. He saw my name on the list.
Wow.
So he knew that up and coming tournament was coming up with the US Open. He was able to play it. They didn't stop him. He was another top player, and he was all the way from California, was here in New York at the time. That's where all the tennis is playing over there.
Yeah.
And from what I was told, he won that tournament. He won the Junior US Open. But there was another player that was getting the publicity that he won the US Open. So what happened is he went to court. He had to go to court, and he won the court case. And it was a pretty big court case. I think those type of court cases, unfortunately, there are a number of them I've heard about. These type of disputes happen. And so even though the court said that he won that tournament and it was the US Open, he didn't get that much publicity for it.
Yeah.
And that was the interesting story. And I think he was a tennis player. I just was remembering some interesting things. That was an excellent player and played for many years. He played as an adult. I remember one thing, they named a tennis center after him in California too. So he got a lot of nice things. He had some pretty good sponsors that were willing to go after those bad people. So instead of him just stepping aside and saying that someone else won the big tournament there, his sponsors were able to really go to the court, contest it, and win the court case. I don't think it was really written too much in the newspapers at all. I don't remember reading any stories about it. I was just told about it just by playing tennis. And this was one interesting story. So this I think anyone probably watching or listening is probably wondering. I don't know if you've heard him as a tennis player. I forget his first name. And but that is very interesting. And he was always a involved player, was playing in California, came all the way here to New York, was playing for a long time. And that was always an interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing about it also was really getting the proof that I was really the number one player and them seeing it writing. And that's what built up the pressure to have me sit out of that particular tournament. And sitting out of the tournament isn't that bad. I think the US Open in particular is known to be very exclusive, and they don't seem to do it very well. Fortunately, if they don't want someone to play, they could just notify them early. I think that would
Mm-hmm.
solve the problem. I think I had the experience years later of playing through the 87 US Open, beating some well-known players and right on television. And but they, of course, they didn't want me to advance because they had an own exclusive thing. In fact, that did result in a big court case that I think I had described, and I have it in the book too. In my book, My Own Court, the life story of tennis legend John Riggio. This is the book here. This is the paper book copy, and I wrote about it in here. So it's better to read the book and read all those stories. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that was is really interesting. Um, of course, the podcasts I eventually get into more details. I remember them and I talk about them. So I think this is one interesting detail about playing tennis that I don't know if anyone knew about was happening, but this was happening. And I think that was happening over in like the year like 1984, I think it was. I don't remember the exact year. And it was the junior US Open where this whole controversy started to take place. And that was really interesting. And but as I was playing, I just played the next tournament. I think just them telling me to stay out of the whole tournament altogether sort of was good and didn't really build up as much a problem about it. But instead, this other player he played, and I think when he didn't step aside, and then he had to really go after him with the sponsors was probably a surprise for them. They didn't probably expect that to happen. And that was pretty big. I think that's all those are like little lessons. And I think hearing about stories like that sort of helps. Then when you go to the next tournament, if they want to do the same thing to you, of course, you would start to speak up. You talk to your sponsors, your coach, tell them what is happening. And as far as my sponsors, we always used to go after them. They always were able to bring them to court and contest it. Some things were just contested with the league and things like that. So that is really interesting. And I think going through the, say, chronological order from that story, I think the next thing that I was remembering was the tennis league they made for me was really called the National Tennis League. It was made for a short time. And that was during the years getting close to, it was like 1989, approximately, going around those years. And that was, of course, created by Robert Kraft, who owns the New England Patriots. He was able to put that together. And in my book, I talk about that whole thing where they created that tennis league. And it was a really popular tennis league he made because it solved a problem with the top players, the top 250 players. And there's like a rotation of 250. So it's like 250 players times four or something like that. And it solved the problem with the green building over in the National Tennis Center, sort of having their own league there. So this was a really excellent idea. It was putting all the best players together. But unfortunately, the ATP, they bought out the league. They bought it over. It was in existence for a short time. It was working very good. In fact, I sort of liked the players. They had really the top players, and my game was able to even move up even more, playing better and better players, playing the very best players they have available. And I think that was really amazing. And that league was taking place over in Manhattan, New York City, at the Sutton East. And of course, that league was played anywhere else that anyone had their own tennis uh, center, or they would arrange the matches at them. And that was going very good. But I just remember just this last week that it was called the National Tennis League. It was in existence legally for a very short time, but it was bought out by the same ATP. They bought it out because they said they didn't want those players to get away. And I thought of something really strange was they didn't want to get them away, like they didn't want to bother them all the time or something, because I think the top players they had the same exact experience, like with this other player, Muller from California, of giving them a problem. So I think that is one interesting story about that, and I have it in the book explaining that. The name of the league isn't in there. I didn't really remember it at the time, but that is one situation. So I think piecing the first story together with this one is understandable what's happening. That it really started to get to my sponsors, sports overall. I think for Mr. Kraft to create the league also and become very popular with the other players, I think is an indication that all those different things were going on where they sort of wanted someone to win at one tournament, wasn't the highest player, and everyone else would just wants to play a fair game. And that's also where the money is too. People playing a fair game, a good, honest game, people want to watch that, and that's what makes all the numbers go up. So that was what was happening with the pro tennis. As far as a player's point of view, I can see that, and I think it's obviously the truth. So I think the next story from there, which is really interesting, is just a couple years later, I'm playing over with my sponsor is Ross Perot, and we're playing in Old Westbury, New York, on Long Island. And there was a whole series of playing I played against Brad Drewitt, which I had explained before in a couple of different podcasts. And just to summarize what happened was Brad Drewitt was originally an excellent player from Australia. Um, and he came over to play at my court,
Hmm.
and he won one match.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the match he won ended up getting canceled out because he had too many improprieties that they discovered. And but that led to a series of matches against him, and I won the series. So even though there were improprieties, I canceled it. I won the series, and it went down that he was really like my student because I had already taught him some secrets of the game, like more than a year earlier, and that was growing on him. He was able to win more matches. He was coming back good. The only interesting story at this point was between him and myself was there was another player. And I have some, I could share this with you. Let me just share the screen.
Sure.
And this here, Todd Woodbridge is one of the players. Now, what's happening here is it says here that he was the number one double player in 1992, which is when these matches were taking place, approximately that time. And he's another player from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing about this is the Australian team they at that time they used to play at Fresh Meadows, which is just down the not Fresh Meadows, Forest Hills, which is Forest Hills is just down the road in Queens, New York City, in the borough of Queens, in the city of New York City, which is New York, New York. And he was playing pretty good, but from what I was told, he was really staying ahead of the game against Brad Drewitt. So Brad Drewitt, when he came to play me, even though he's playing great, winning a lot of games, he wasn't able to surpass this player. There's another player involved with this called Mark Woodford,
Okay.
and he was also usually his doubles partner looks like. with the tennis playing. But what happened was the player that was ahead of Brad Jewett over there, I had a perfect record against him. I never lost a
Oh,
match against him. I always stayed ahead of him playing. So at the time, he told me he was a number one doubles player too. So we got to play another match there. We probably played at least one match at that particular time, and during the tournament they had, I won the match again. So even though he's number one doubles player, obviously I'm the number one contract in singles, number one singles player. So although he's an excellent, great player, I was able to stay ahead of him, so which is really good. And I think Brad DeWitt was really making a big storm that he was coming up, moving ahead, but he couldn't surpass this player either. And that was just a very interesting thing. So this is another player that he played very nice, didn't bother anybody. We played a nice, fair match, and there were no problems, no controversies or anything. And that's interesting thing about this player was one of the names there, but just there was no controversy or anything. So I think that is one interesting thing, and it was good just to note him because he was staying ahead of
yeah.
Brad Jewett. Brad Jewett told me the story that he had like a big match over there, or with everyone watching over in the Forest Hills, but this player surpassed him,
Wow.
and so I was able to stay ahead of this player. And I think this is just his bio going back, just showing here highest ranking in doubles was number one in 1992. And also Mr. Mark Woodford was also number one because they used to play as partners. So they were both in the number one slot for doubles. So this is really interesting. And let me just stop that there. So I
Sure.
think that was really a very interesting story because this sort of pieces together a number of players and things like that. I think as far as some interesting players, there was also another player um, th that I had played that he also had his following too, and I was just watching his YouTube show. He has a YouTube show. I will show that on another event because he doesn't have anything to do with this whole situation. And so there are all kinds of interesting players that I have played. I think another couple names I have remembered just from the past were these two brothers that are living in the Bronx. I have to get
Mm-hmm.
their name. I had it before. And I played both of those players too from years ago. So there was so many different players and interesting stories going on at the time. So I think this story, like with the doubles players, these are the number one ranked players, and they're showing it right here on their biography. So it isn't they are getting good credit. They have a nice thing where they able to get their players in there. You can see them and read them, and uh, that is pretty good. So that was very interesting. I think the story that I was talking about before with Mother from California is really interesting. I think one thing about him was sort of some things about him also that he's a top player. And I don't know if anyone recognizes his name or have seen him on television, but he is another one that is really was playing, was had to go and really bring them to court and things like that, and was always playing, and he was had the same kind of experiences like myself, where he saw the listings, the names on the coach's piece of paper that they
Yeah.
had it. You could read them, and so I was getting verbal updates from different players like that, and that's how I know all these different facts. Obviously, I always used to compare the information. The information like seeing me as number one player, things like that, always matched. Then it was 100% certain. I think the things like with the court cases, with the sports, they're not always in the newspaper. Only very few of them are in the newspaper, but these kind of things are always going on. That's was very
Yeah.
interesting. And I heard even some things with one court case was when one player was lying, he had to pay back, him and his sponsors had to pay back 50% of the tickets in the stadium that people paid
Ah, what?
to
Wow.
watch the match. Since it was considered a fraudulent outcome of the match, they end up paying 50% of the tickets sold at the
Wow.
stadium there, which is really interesting. And so that I think was amazing thing that was happening there. I think one thing about the tickets with the stadiums is and the people watching it, the that was another line of income that was going on with my sponsors, separate from playing the matches. So the income coming from
Mm-hmm.
the general admission, people walking over, just paying, was a completely separate line of income, which is very interesting. I think that was interesting. All those things, they didn't bother me. I mean, that was just
Mm-hmm.
however they played it is what was happening. And but I think as far as the numbers were concerned, that was
Yeah,
interesting. It adds a little extra money to all the different things in the contract. I don't think those numbers
sure
were ever
does.
added to my contract. So whoever was coming and paying admission and things like that, obviously weren't in there. And so I think that is really interesting. So I think that was one thing that I had remembered just recently, and remembering the National Tennis League was pretty big. I had forgot about it before, and I think I remembered it because of that whole thing with like they have like the New York Mets over there in Shea Stadium in the National Tennis League. I think it's somehow I remembered it. It was just like a little mind trick to remember the name of it. I never wrote down anything about these things. They're really a very interesting stories and all kinds of different facts that I was been remembering. It's just amazing. I never wrote anything down. It was unbelievable. And I think hopefully I could really try to top this off is try to really locate some of my cards would also work pretty good. They're around someplace. Trying to find them, and I think I hopefully I could find them one day and show them on the YouTube here too. I mean, that would work out really good.
Awesome. Oh my goodness, of course. Wow, John Riggio, again, you're here with our Professional of the Year pro tennis player and architect and author. And as you can hear, never a dull moment. All right, 3 more minutes left on the clock. What else do you have for us?
Well, I think everything is going good. I think all those memories are coming along. My tennis club is really doing good. It's heading up. We're getting closer and closer to 1,900 people now, and I'm still teaching them and everything. Was trying to arrange some league so people can practice their tennis a little more, arranging some people together to play some tennis matches. I had one of them already went ahead where they played the tennis matches, so that was really good. And so I've been getting into things like that. I think that is very nice. And I think going back to Japan, getting some pro training again has revived some things about my playing, and I think that's really amazing. I think one thing I had noted on the last show was doing the pro training compared to just regular playing is sort of different. Regular playing, a lot of people that like gentle hitting of the ball, nice, just a nice hitting of the ball. And the pro training is really more to hit the ball harder and harder, more accurate and more accurate. That is really one interesting thing about the pro training sessions. And I think in the video I showed, I could just show a little recap of this in 2 seconds.
Sure,
Let
go
me
ahead.
head over to let me get over here to this here. And this is, okay, good.
Here we go.
All right, so let me just share this. Okay, so I think with this, the only thing is the sound is
Volume,
on there,
yeah.
but you can hear me hitting the ball. You could hear me straining, really get hitting, and you could hear CG Yuki. really commenting on my hitting the ball, saying some nice things. And so this, even though it was just a simple hitting session, it's really much higher than usual. And I think this is really something like this is to get me back playing with remembering all the basic fundamentals. I think the all the little knowledge of playing at the pro level is very sort of like very exclusive, or not that many people really know all the different pro shots and how to really play the tennis correctly. So I think all this is like a very nice refresher of playing, and this sort of got my game back playing with the different grips. I went through all kinds of grips and memories from long ago on holding the racket, playing at the net. This was just at the baseline, but I went through in a short time all those different things,
Yep.
all different drills. So it was pretty good remembering all those different points.
As
And of
always.
course, all those different points I could spread to my students on the weekend. They're getting all kinds of different pointers from my playing from pro years, which is really good. So that is, you really get a step up from playing just like basic tennis. I always explain also that you don't have to really play tennis really excellent if you don't want to. You could just play very basic continental tennis. You never have to change your grip. You can
Mm-hmm.
play like a continental grip anywhere on the court, and as long as you enjoy playing tennis, hitting the ball is most important. I think that's
Beautiful.
how my
Thank you,
tennis
John.
really started. It was enjoyable and fun to play tennis, and that's how the tennis grew. I think it's probably the same for most people.
All right. Yeah.
Most people playing tennis is really has to do with enjoying playing tennis, and it's fun to play, and that it isn't like a burden to get out there and hit the ball around and things like that. So that's most important with
Thank you. All right,
whole
John,
tennis
we got to
rules.
go. Sorry, johnriggio.com. Reach out or go on Facebook, John Riggio Pro Tennis. Check him out. Google his name. Sorry, we have to run. We'll talk again soon. Thank you for everything. Pick up a copy of his book, too.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.